There is a specific kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much you slept. You set the alarm early. You wrote the plan. You even started. And then something inside you just quietly refused. Not dramatically. Not with a breakdown or a fight. More like a fog rolling in. The thing you wanted to do an hour ago now feels impossibly far away, and you cannot explain why, because nothing changed except the moment you were supposed to actually become the person who does it. You have probably called this laziness. You have probably called it worse. But here is what nobody told you. The resistance you feel is not a character flaw. It is a security system. And it is not malfunctioning. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. If this is your first time here, Neural Ascent exists to show you the machinery running underneath everything you feel and do. Not vague concepts. Not motivation. Mechanisms. The kind of understanding that makes you stop fighting yourself and start working with the actual architecture of your brain. If that is what you have been looking for, subscribing is just a way to make sure the next one finds you. Here is the story you have been telling yourself. You think the problem is discipline. You think somewhere along the way you missed a lesson on willpower, or you got a weaker version of it, or you burned yours out. So you try harder. You download another app. You set another alarm. You write the plan again, but angrier this time, like if you just commit hard enough, the fog will not come back. And when it does come back, you take it as evidence that something is fundamentally wrong with you, that you are the kind of person who cannot follow through. That story is not just wrong, it is backwards. Discipline is not the bottleneck. You have proven that already. You can push through hard things when they do not threaten how you see yourself. You can grind for hours on something that fits the version of you that already exists. The resistance only shows up at a very specific threshold, and that threshold has nothing to do with effort. It has everything to do with identity. The real problem is not that you lack the ability to change. It is that your brain is actively, intelligently, and silently working to keep you the same. Think about it like this. Imagine you live in a house with a thermostat. You have been living at 68 degrees for years. One day you decide you want to live at 80. So you open all the windows, bring in space heaters, do everything you can to raise the temperature. And it works for a little while. The room gets warmer, but then the air conditioning kicks on. Not because the system is broken, because the system is doing its job. It detects a deviation from the set point, and it corrects. It pulls you back to 68, not out of cruelty, out of function. That is what it was built to do. Your brain has the same architecture. In neuroscience, it is called homeostasis, the tendency of any complex system to maintain internal stability. Your body does it with temperature, blood sugar, hydration, but your brain does it with something far less obvious. It does it with your identity. There is a neural representation of who you are, a set point built from years of repeated behavior, emotional patterns, and environmental feedback. Every habit you have kept, every role you have played, every story you have told yourself about what kind of person you are, all of it has been encoded into a baseline. Your brain treats that baseline the way your thermostat treats 68 degrees. It defends it. This is not a metaphor. The basal ganglia, the deep brain structures responsible for habit formation and pattern recognition, literally encode repeated behaviors as defaults. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning and deliberate action, has to fight against those defaults every single time you try to do something new. And here's the part that matters. The prefrontal cortex runs on a limited energy supply. The basal ganglia do not. Your old identity runs on autopilot. Your new one requires fuel that runs out. So when you sit down to do the thing that the new version of you would do, and you feel that strange heaviness, that pull toward the couch or the phone or the easier path, what you are feeling is not weakness. It is your brain's homeostatic correction activating in real time. The fog is not laziness. The fog is your neurological thermostat detecting a deviation from the set point and pulling you back. You are not failing to start. You are being stopped by a system that interprets change as a threat to stability. This is why the first few days of any new behavior feel electric, and then the resistance builds. Your brain gives you a brief window fueled by novelty and dopamine before the identity defense system catches up. Most people interpret the crash as proof they were never really committed. It is not proof of anything except that homeostasis works. Marcus Aurelius wrote something 20 centuries ago that cut straight to the center of this. He said the impediment to action advances action, that what stands in the way becomes the way. He was not being poetic. He was describing, without the language of neuroscience, the exact mechanism at work here. The resistance is not separate from the process of becoming someone new. It is the process. The thermostat kicking on is not a sign that you are failing to change. It is a sign that the change has been registered. Your brain would not fight something that was not real. What this means in your actual life is more specific than you might expect. It means the day you decided to start waking up earlier and then found yourself turning off the alarm without any memory of doing it. That was not you being careless. That was your basal ganglia executing a years-old default faster than your conscious mind could intervene. It means the afternoon you sat down to work on the thing that actually matters to you, and then somehow ended up scrolling for 45 minutes without deciding to. That was not a failure of discipline. That was a homeostatic correction dressed up as a casual choice. Your brain rerouted you to a familiar behavior because the unfamiliar one was starting to rewrite the set point, and the system could not allow that without a fight. It means every time you have looked at the gap between who you are and who you are trying to become and felt that specific sinking feeling, the one that whispers, maybe this is just not who you are, you were not hearing the truth. You were hearing the thermostat. Now look at how this plays out and the two traps most people fall into. The first trap is the overhaul. You get a burst of clarity, usually after a rough week or a moment that disgusted you, and you decide to change everything at once. New schedule, new diet, new habits, new rules. You attack the set point from every direction simultaneously, and for about 4 to 7 days, it works beautifully, and you think this time is different. Then the homeostatic correction hits from every direction simultaneously too, because you threaten the entire identity at once, and the crash is so total that you end up further back than where you started, not because you aimed too high. Because you triggered the maximum immune response your brain is capable of producing. The overhaul feels like commitment. It functions as self-sabotage. The second trap is quieter and more dangerous because it looks like patience. It is the permanent preparation loop. You read another book, you watch another video, you refine the plan. You tell yourself you are getting ready, that once you understand enough, you will be able to do it right. But you never start. Not because you are afraid of failure, though that is part of it. Because staying in preparation mode lets you feel like the kind of person who is about to change without ever triggering the homeostatic correction that actual change produces. The set point stays safe. The identity stays untouched. You get the emotional experience of growth without any of the neurological friction. Preparation feels like progress. It functions as protection. The narrow path between those two traps is not obvious, but once you see it, it becomes the only thing that makes sense. You do not need to overhaul the identity, and you do not need to keep preparing for the overhaul. You need to do something small enough that it stays under the homeostatic radar, but real enough that it actually touches the set point. Not a revolution, not a rehearsal. A single point of contact between who you are and who you are becoming, repeated until the thermostat recalibrates. This is where the mechanism stops being theory and becomes something you can use tonight. The move is called an identity anchor, and it works because it targets the exact system that has been stopping you. Here is what you do. Choose one behavior, only one, that the version of you that you are building toward would do every day. Not the hardest one, not the most impressive one, the most consistent one. The one that is so small your brain will not register it as a threat. 5 minutes of the work you have been avoiding, 1 page of the book, 1 set of the exercise, 1 honest sentence in a journal. Then you attach a sentence to it. Before you do the behavior or immediately after, you say to yourself in your own words something that names the identity, not an affirmation, not a mantra, a declaration of what just happened. Something like, I am the kind of person who does this. That is it. Behavior plus identity statement. 5 minutes plus 1 sentence. Here's why this works at the level of the brain. Every time you perform a small behavior that is consistent with a new identity and then consciously label it, you are doing 2 things at once. You are giving the basal ganglia a new pattern to encode, 1 repetition at a time, and you are giving the prefrontal cortex an explicit identity tag to attach to that pattern. Over time, and this has been demonstrated in research on self-concept and habit formation, the set point itself begins to shift. Not because you forced it, because you gave the thermostat a new number so gradually that the correction system never fully activated. You did not fight homeostasis. You reprogrammed it. The key is that the behavior has to be real, not symbolic. You actually do the 5 minutes. You actually write the sentence, not because 5 minutes will change your life, but because 5 minutes done by the person you are becoming recalibrates the system that has been keeping you locked in place. Miss today and start again tomorrow with 0 drama. The thermostat does not care about streaks. It cares about the trend of what is normal for you. Here's what you are actually up against. It was never laziness. It was never a lack of information or motivation or some missing piece you had not found yet. It was a brain doing exactly what brains do, defending the known against the unknown. Because for most of human history, the known was what kept you alive. Your neurological machinery is not punishing you for wanting to grow. It is trying to protect a version of you that made sense once, and a life that may not even exist anymore, using rules that were written before you had any say in who you would become. But you have a say now. The question this video raised was never really about why you feel resistance when you try to change. That was just the surface. The real question is whether you are going to keep interpreting your brain's protective mechanisms as evidence of who you are, or whether you are going to see them for what they actually are, proof that the change you are attempting is significant enough for your deepest systems to notice. The resistance is not the enemy of your new life. It is the first sign that your new life has already begun to be built. You were never lazy. You were just thermostated to a version of yourself that someone else set. Tonight you put your hand on the dial